Hello and welcome back to another episode. Of course, it is that time of year. Have a cup of blood, make yourself at home, relax. For this evening you will have your mind melted by stories which will keep you awake and screaming through the night. Yes, of course. Welcome to the Soup's Eye View Halloween special. This evening I'd like to share with you a couple of stories which scared the bejesus out of me when I was a child. I'm from North Wales, and these stories are local stories from, there's a town very close to me called Mold, and also from my hometown, Prestatyn. Hopefully you'll enjoy them as much as I did. Are you sitting comfortably? Then we shall begin. Mold is a town in North Wales. It predates the Romans. The centrepiece of the town is its Bailey Hill, partly natural and partly man-made. This formation rises high above the elegant Gothic parish church of St Mary's to provide a landmark for people miles around. It gave its name to the Celtic settlement Urwithgrig, the Green Mound, and in turn to the English settlement Mold. Mold being a corruption of the Roman name Mont Atlas. This was the name that they gave to this site when they came here. Ancient skeletons are frequently dug up around the base of the Bailey Hill, and below the hill stands a terrace of 4 Victorian houses, each apparently as haunted as the next. Shan Roadhouse lives in number 4, closest to the Bailey, and in her garden wall are the remnants of Mold's original 13th century church, which was destroyed when the present church was built. A chunk of Gothic masonry, perhaps forming part of a window, is set beside 4 carved heads of a distinctly Celtic design, and they serve as reminders that the houses are situated in the oldest part of the town. The earliest settlement would have been around the motte and Bailey. Perhaps it is the age of the land which has given the houses built upon it such supernatural activity. Number 4 has been troubled by ghostly activity of a very varied and frightening nature for some years. They have centred most recently on the bedroom at the top of the stairs. It's the room that we give to our paying guests, says Sean, and 1 or 2 have felt presence there recently. Catherine, a young girl, one of our lodgers, I remember, came running down the stairs one morning for breakfast, looking rather pale. I asked if she'd had a good night's sleep. No, she said. I was woken up in the middle of the night with this eerie feeling that there was someone in the room with me. And then the bed started shaking. I've been awake ever since with the light on. Oh dear, said Sean. Would you like another room? No, not at all, she said. Catherine found this fascinating. Similar things happened the next couple of nights, and then the activity subsided. Perhaps Catherine wasn't scared enough for the ghost's liking. The window of another room, one which would have been used by the maid of the Victorian household, refuses to stay closed. For months, Sean would find it open every Saturday morning, having apparently opened itself on Friday night. She tried sticking sellotape over it to keep it shut, to no avail. It would be found open in the morning just the same. Sean took up the story. While this was going on, a lodger moved into the room, and he had quite a startling experience one night. He was woken by a knocking on the window, a kind of rapping. Rap, rap, rap. Then suddenly the window slammed open and banged about, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. He jumped out of bed in consternation, and then caught a glimpse of a figure disappearing downstairs. We don't know who. Strange phenomena occur all over the house, however, and at all times of the day. One afternoon, for example, Sean was having a cup of tea and a chat in the kitchen with her neighbour Joyce, when Joyce suddenly exclaimed, "Look at that! Look at the ashtray!" Sean looked down and with Joyce watched the ashtray slide 6 inches across the table all by itself. Items have a habit of moving in Sean's house, but this was the first time that she'd actually caught one in the act. Ornaments frequently fling themselves off shelves or are found lying on the floor where they have fallen. Most recently, an old teddy bear which tried for a taste of freedom. It jumped off the top of the wardrobe and hit Sian in the head as she sat on the bed brushing her hair. All of the rooms in the house, of all the rooms in the house, it is this, Sian's bedroom, which seems to be the most haunted, and the most frighteningly so. A few years ago, Sian became the victim of a malignant entity, which would come to her during the darkest hours of the night. She told me, the first time it came, I woke to find myself struggling with this thing. I couldn't physically feel anything, but there was a great pressure upon me, all down my left side. It was as if something was trying to push me out of the bed, or worse, trying to get in through my skin. It was horrible. I struggled and felt all the life draining out of me. Desperately, I tried to remember all the prayers I knew and just started repeating them over and over, and finally the pressure seemed to ease off. I thought I'd gotten rid of it, but I was wrong. The thing seemed to move behind me. I felt these fingers on my shoulders. 2 hands grabbed me and tried to pull me out of the bed. I thought, this is it. I'm going to die. I'm dead. But then I heard this loud, awful groan from somewhere above me, and, whatever it was, let go. I saw this little black blob, like a squash ball, roll away from me and vanish somewhere near the fireplace. And that was that. I was free of it. But it took me a long time to get over the shock. I had the vicar in, and he told me some prayers to say, but I'd stay up night after night, not daring to go to sleep. Sometimes even now I feel it returning, this pressure bearing down, but I've learned to fight it off, and before it starts, I don't think it'll be able to get me again. Sian is a brave lady indeed. The above experiences would have been quite enough for me, or the author, to set them running from the house and never to return, but Sian is clearly made of sterner stuff, as evidenced by her final tale, one which made the author shiver all over at the recounting of it. Sian had been lying in bed dozing off when she felt someone poking her ribs again and again. Then there came a girlish giggle from beside her, and Sian rolled over to encounter someone in her bed. It was a young woman with a pointy face and frizzy ginger hair, said Sian, and she was just lying there, laughing at me and prodding me like she was teasing me. Well, I'm used to anything but in this house by now, she said, and I was more indignant than frightened, so I just told her to fuck off, and rolled over and ignored her. She disappeared. Sian had certainly claimed more than her fair share of apparitions, but her neighbours can claim a few too. Especially in recent years, when renovations were occurring in the houses along the row. Now, I'll leave that story there, but that one used to scare the bejesus out of me. The idea of rolling over to find the apparition of a frizzy, sort of red-headed, pointy-faced witch-type characters poking you in the ribs. Creepy. Now, the next story, it's a bit shorter, but this one actually comes from my hometown, from Prestatyn, and it goes as follows. Despite its brash, modern image as a popular seaside town, with caravan parks and gift shops, Prestatyn possesses considerable history, possibly the earliest inhabited place in North Wales. Prestatyn was later the site of a thriving Roman community, and archaeological digs have revealed the remains of their occupation. The town also has more than its share of hauntings. Journalist and historian Harry Thomas, who lives in the town, has investigated many of them, and it is he I must thank for my information on Nant Hall Road. Nant Hall Road is said to have been built over a Roman cemetery, and it seems especially haunted. A recent visitation took place in a council flat at the top floor of number 28. A young couple applied to be rehoused after they were awoken each night by the sound of doors banging and footsteps running up and down the corridor outside their room. Friends who stayed with them also heard the noises, and a grey, misty figure was seen hovering outside their bedroom. The troubles seemed to start soon after the couple's baby was born, and a medium who was called in claimed to contact the spirit of an old woman in the flat, a former nanny, who worked in the house in the early 1900s. She had been attracted to the child, the medium told the worried occupants, and the bangings were the sound of her checking doors and windows, making sure they were locked and that the baby was safe, something she used to do regularly when she was still alive. The old police station in Nant Hall Road was also haunted. A former occupant wrote to the historian Harry Thomas to tell him of her experiences during the 1960s, and she kindly agreed for him to pass the letter on. She wrote, "I began to notice an additional member of the household who seemed to stand just to the side or just behind me. I never really saw her face. I say her as I feel she was an old woman, dressed in long, dark clothes. I was never frightened, more a feeling of friendly company, and I was often on my own at night. The back kitchen and landing were her favourite haunts. None of my family were aware of her, and we moved away 16 months later. The house became publicity offices, and I found an excuse to go in one afternoon. I mentioned I had lived there, and the man looked horrified. He said nothing would induce me to stay here after dark. This place is haunted." He and I had felt the same thing in the same places. So there you have it. Two of my favourite ghost stories from when I was a child, and they came from this book, Haunted Clwyd, written by Richard Holland. This book, and also there's another one called Supernatural Clwyd, were some of my favourite bedtime reads, because I quite liked being a little bit spooked before I went to sleep. And hopefully you guys have enjoyed hearing those stories as well. Whatever you get up to this weekend, make sure you're safe and have a ghoulishly fantastic time. As ever, until next time, do take care. Bye bye.